It started like every Saturday morning. I grabbed my fishing rod, walked down my private dock, and cast my line into the same lake my family had owned for nearly 40 years. I never imagined that simple fishing trip would end with half the county showing up at my front gate. About 20 minutes later, I heard someone yelling from the shoreline. A woman I had never spoken to before was storming toward my dock, demanding that I leave the neighborhood lake immediately. She sounded completely convinced the water belonged to the HOA. I calmly explained that the lake wasn't owned by the HOA. My grandfather had purchased the entire shoreline decades before the subdivision was ever built. Instead of listening, she pulled out her phone and said the police would remove me for trespassing. Within 15 minutes, several police cruisers pulled to the neighborhood entrance. The officers approached politely and asked both of us to explain what had happened. I handed them my fishing license and quietly told them I also had the property deed in my truck. One of the officers walked with me to my truck, while another stayed behind with Linda. I unlocked the glove compartment and carefully removed a leather folder containing the original deed, county survey maps, and decades-old ownership records. The officers immediately began reviewing the documents. After comparing the deed with the county parcel map on their computer, the officers discovered something unexpected. Not only did I own the lake, but I also owned the private road leading to the waterfront. The surprised expressions on everyone's faces said it all. The lead officer politely asked Linda if she had any documents proving the HOA owned the lake. She searched through her folder, but every paper she produced only covered neighborhood common areas, not the waterfront or the private access road. The county surveyor arrived a short time later with official GIS maps and boundary records. After checking multiple reference points, he confirmed the shoreline dock lake and even the road entrance were all part of my family's original property. The surveyor pointed toward the neighborhood entrance and explained that the subdivision had been built around my family's land decades earlier. The HOA managed nearby homes, but had never owned the lake or the private road leading to it. After reviewing every document, the officers thanked me for my cooperation and explained that I was fully within my property rights. They reminded everyone that ownership disputes should be resolved through legal records, not assumptions. Linda quietly walked back toward the neighborhood entrance without another word. The next morning, I thought the whole misunderstanding was over. I launched my small fishing boat from my private dock and headed toward the center of the lake. The peaceful silence didn't last long before several angry homeowners gathered along the shoreline. Several neighbors insisted the HOA had always allowed residents to use the lake. I calmly explained that I had simply allowed respectful access for years as a courtesy, but permission was never the same as ownership. To avoid future confusion, I hired a professional attorney and land survey company to install permanent boundary markers around the property. Everything was done openly, legally, and with advance notice to nearby residents. The updated survey maps were filed with the county and made publicly available. Anyone could now verify the property boundaries through official records instead of relying on neighborhood rumors. A week later, several neighbors came to apologize for believing incorrect information. We had a respectful conversation beside the dock, and I assured them there were no hard feelings. Honest communication solved far more than arguments ever could. A few days later, I invited the county surveyor to explain the official property lines during a neighborhood meeting. Using the recorded maps and legal documents, he answered every question with clear facts. By the end of the meeting, most residents finally understood how the property boundaries had always been recorded. Following the meeting, I replaced the old weather dock signs with new professionally made markers. Each sign clearly identified the property as private, while welcoming invited guests to enjoy the lake responsibly. Throughout the summer, friends and family gathered for quiet weekends of fishing and boating. The lake remained peaceful, and everyone respected the clearly marked property boundaries. One afternoon, a local newspaper published a full story after reviewing the public records. The article focused on the importance of verified property records and respectful communication between neighbors rather than assumptions. As the sun set over the lake, I cast one final line from the dock and smiled. The experience had reminded everyone that the best way to settle disagreements is through patience, accurate records, and respectful conversation. The lake was peaceful once again. A month later, The county completed updated records showing the private road exactly as it had existed for decades. New address markers and road signs made ownership even clearer, preventing future confusion for visitors and emergency services alike. Soon afterward, emergency responders visited the property to update their navigation system. They confirmed the private road and dock location so future emergency calls could be handled quickly and accurately. As summer continued, the lake became known for its peaceful atmosphere rather than neighborhood disagreements. Friends often joined me for early morning fishing trips, enjoying the quiet water and beautiful scenery. One afternoon, Linda stopped by the dock to apologize for the misunderstanding. She admitted she had relied on assumptions instead of official records, and we ended the conversation with mutual respect. That evening, I sat quietly at the end of my dock as the last rays of sunlight disappeared across the water. What started as an unexpected confrontation became a reminder that patience, clear records, and respectful conversations can solve problems far better than assumptions ever could. The following weekend, I hosted a small community fishing day for invited neighbors and local families. Everyone enjoyed the lake responsibly, proving that respect and clear communication could bring people together far better than arguments ever had. Later that afternoon, several local veterans thanked me for allowing them to spend a peaceful day fishing with their families.